Given Obama's gigantic executive power grab that Eileen and I write about in our book entitled Power Grab, it's very interesting, and today's history video will explore what happened to the last president who tried an excessive power grab and how Congress and the courts pushed back on that and called it back into check. And that, of course, was the Nixon administration. Arthur Schlesinger Jr., the liberal historian, called it the imperial presidency. And everybody was focused on the way Nixon had expanded the power of the president in enormous ways and dwarfed the role of Congress. And then, toward the end of Nixon's term, and after he left office, forced to resign, Congress pushed back on all of these Nixon power grabs in a very interesting and novel way, and can give us a bit of a foretaste as to how we're going to have to do it toward the end of Obama's administration, and more importantly, after he leaves office, to sort of get this garment of our Constitution back into shape after he stretched it to the limit by expanding executive power. One of the big things that Nixon did was that he refused to spend money that Congress appropriated. So Congress would vote something, he would veto it, they would override the veto, and the check would arrive, the mandate to spend would arrive in Washington, and Nixon would refuse to spend it. It was called impounding the money. And we have the metaphor now in Obama's impounding enforcement of the law. Obama is authorized to deport people, but he won't do it. Obama is authorized to crack down on Medicaid and other fraud, but he won't do it. What he's trying to do is to stop enforcing the law when he disagrees with it. Well, Congress passed the Budget Impoundment Act that said that the president had to spend the money that was appropriated, that he did not have the authority to impound it. And be very interesting to see how Congress, certainly after Obama leaves office, can shape an anti-impoundment act to force the faithful execution of the laws. The second thing that Nixon did that was really crazy was that he jimmied and fixed the budget with all kinds of budget gimmicks. And he pretended it was in balance when it wasn't. The deficit was swollen as a result of his actions. And Congress lacked the technical ability to stop him. They just didn't understand the budgeting process enough. And the appropriations committees, which were narrowly focused on the spending in each agency, lacked the overview and the knowledge to fight back on equal terms. So Congress passed the Congressional Budget Act that set up the Congressional Budget Office, a nonpartisan entity whose expertise now probably exceeds that of the President's Office in Management and Budget. And it gave Congress the capacity to fight on budget issues on at least equal, if not superior terms. Nixon's biggest overreach was to go to war without any authorization from Congress. He was basing the whole Vietnam War on the Gulf of Tonkin resolution Johnson had passed in '64, giving us the authority to repel attacks on our shipping by North Vietnam. And based on that, they justified the whole war. Well, Congress passed the War Powers Act that no president has ever signed. It was vetoed and passed over his veto, and no president has ever abided by it. I'm sorry, back off. The other thing Nixon did, of course, was to make war without congressional approval. The whole Vietnam War never received really the approval of Congress. There was a limited Gulf of Tonkin resolution in 1964, but that authorized reply to a specific naval attack. But on that basis, he justified the entire war. Congress pushed back with the War Powers Act that said that Congress had to be consulted when force was deployed. The president had the right to send in troops, but within 60 days he had to come back to Congress for authorization to keep them there if those troops were on a combat mission. So and then the other abuse, of course, was the CIA, where he used it for domestic enemies, he used it to spy on people, he used the FBI in a similar way, and Congress set up the intelligence committees that were designed to oversee foreign intelligence gathering, the CIA, and rein in its activities. So let's understand that when the Republicans, I hope, win the presidency in '16, And I think we'll keep the House, and I believe we'll keep the Senate, might even expand our majority in the Senate. One of the first items of business is to pass a legislative package that puts the executive branch and the presidency back into the role that's intended for it in the U.S. Constitution. We can't rely on the courts to do it. We have to do what the Democrats did in the 1970s and use Congress to rein in the powers of the president. Thanks for watching.